This is one. I'm happy I didn't see this one in the theater. I'm happy that it didn't seem like it got a theatrical release that I know of, at least nowhere around me. I had to watch it on YouTube, and I'm kind of glad of that, because if I'd gone to the theater, I'd feel compelled to do, basically what the premise of the show is, and to do the review right as I came out. And this is one of those films that I think even if I had, I'd probably need a little time to process. And even though I've taken a couple hours and mulled it over, I'm still not exactly sure what I'm going to say about this movie. And I fear this may be one of my weaker outings as a critic, simply because this film truly is an art piece in every sense of the word. And while I dare say I have expertise in this area, in criticism and plot and structure and writing and acting and directing, I do have expertise in this area. When it comes to grading things as a work of art, I don't know if I have the qualifications, to be completely honest. I feel like I need a couple classes in art history and art appreciation to really give this film the attention it deserves. So I'm going to do my best here, and I apologize if it is not up to snuff, but I will say the answer to that is the answer to everything when it comes to that is, best thing to do is go watch the movie for yourself and make your own determinations. So I always recommend that, even if the movie is bad. But I'm going to do my best here. So Charlotte, a movie I saw a trailer for, again, online, because I do searches for trailers just to see what's coming. And this is a film that caught my attention right away. It's an animated film, animated biopic of the life of Jewish artist Charlotte Salomon, who was a painter in Berlin in the late 30s, early 40s. So right away, you see where we're going here. A Jewish artist who fled to France as things started getting really, really bad in Berlin, and lived in France for a number of years while the war was going on, and would continue to paint. And she's, again, I did a little bit of research for this prior to coming out here, just to feel like I had a little bit more knowledge. And yes, she is one of the most prominent and talked about artists of her time, or of all time. She's definitely considered one of the Jewish community's most treasured artists, and the resulting book of her artwork, that over the course of these years, between when she started painting in the late 30s and the end of her life in the 40s, about mid 40s, so she was only 26 years old. She generated something like over 1,000 paintings, which were all collected in a book called My Life or Theater, which I love that title, or Real Life or Theater. That is a beautiful title. I love that. And it's basically the illustrated history of her life and her thoughts. And many people call it the world's first graphic novel. So, and I looked at some of the paintings that she did, and God, they are beautiful. Not in the style that I usually enjoy. I like realism in my paintings. I like landscapes and things like that. And she is somewhere between realism and kind of a Picasso abstract. I was really proud of myself watching the films. I was like, I think she's an expressionist. And then she said, I'm an expressionist. So I was like, yay, I got one. So it's, and the basic definition, if I'm wrong about this, artists who may be watching this, please correct me. An expressionist is someone who does not paint down or draw or sketch an image exactly as it appears. They're not going for realism. They do their interpretation of it. And man, her paintings, I was looking at some of them online, and they use them in this movie as reference. They're gorgeous, like not what I would normally look at, but oh my God, they're so beautiful. Even ones depicting horrific, terrible moments are still, there's a haunting beauty behind them. So It's clear why they chose to do this movie in the format that they chose to do it. An animated history of her life, which is just fascinating to me. Again, it's a little hard to, because normally I would talk about the characters or the story structure or things like that, but that's not what's really important about this movie. This movie, to my estimation, what it is aiming to be is more of almost an animated, a moving picture book. It wants to be a tapestry, a real moving tapestry, and it seems every creative choice is built around that core concept. I was just talking to my directing students about having a style and having a concept in mind, and this film is an excellent example of that. A few months ago, my main TV in my living room crapped out on me. It just died. Didn't turn on anymore, and decided it was done. And it came at a time when there's just a lot going on, and I was very stressed, and I was having a really hard time with a lot of things, and I just ran out to buy a new TV. I wanted to get a new TV, get it done, and I accidentally bought a fucking, I don't know how big it is, a fucking huge TV. I bought a massive high-def TV, and I did not intend to, and I didn't realize till I got it home, like, how big it really was. Now, it makes viewing movies really, really an experience in the living room, I don't mind telling you. But I have to say that this is the first time that I'm really happy that I made that mistake and I had this TV, because the size it is and the definition that it is, you really can see the love and care taken with the artwork of the backgrounds in this movie. The backgrounds of this film are breathtaking. Just so lovingly rendered. The closest film I can equate it to is Disney's Sleeping Beauty. I remember watching a making of on that, and they talked about that they wanted the backgrounds to feel like you could cut out a frame of the movie and hang it on your wall. That any shot, any location, they wanted it to look like something you could hang on your wall as a piece of art without any connection to the film. And I really feel like that's what they wanted to do here. And they succeeded. The use of animation in this film is just exquisite. The transitions and I guess what we might call montages to kind of show the passage of time or show her inner dialogue or monologue about what she's feeling at any given time, and using the kind of slow evolution of whichever painting to illustrate that. It's done beautifully. The people are masters of their work. The character models are kind of interesting, and it's the one sticking point in the animation that I could sometimes have I don't know if I'd say I have issues with, but it doesn't look as pretty. The human characters, I don't know, they're very simplistic in the facial designs and everything, and I don't know, it's a little distracting at times. The characters almost look like they're purposefully made to look unappealing. And I don't think that's what they're going for. I think they're going for a minimalistic look. Again, like you might see, you can definitely see that they were trying their best to recreate her art style in the character models, because some of the portraits she does, and they show the paintings, you can kind of see the similarities between those and the models of the character. So they're definitely trying to do things in her style. The problem is that sometimes that doesn't translate too well into movement. You know, that works well as a moment frozen in time, but when the characters move or talk, it's not as captivating, you know. It's not as full of life. But that's okay, because the characters don't really move that much. That's another thing. You can tell that I don't believe this was a hand-drawn film. This looks CGI to me. you know. And again, the closest comparison I can give is if you've ever watched Archer, which is a CGI cartoon, and the characters all have very kind of box-like bodies and very stiff movements. You know, their elbows and knees don't really bend very naturally, and that's kind of all the motion they get. You don't get a whole lot out of them. They're very stiff. And that's kind of what they did with the characters and the models here, is the movements when they do move are a little jerky, you know. And then they have other times when the characters move and it's very fluid. Oh, it's almost overly fluid, you know, like they move very lifelike and very natural, but yet there's a grace to it. It's almost more like a ballet. And again, I believe that was all done by design. I think that's purposefully what they did in both of those instances, because again, trying to create the image of a moving tapestry, a moving painting. So characters in a painting would move like that. That's because that's how they're painted. They're usually very stiff, or they would move very flowing and very gracefully. So the animation style plays into the overall thematic element, which I appreciate. And it's not just the animation. Everything in the movie is done to create this kind of heightened beauty. And it is a gorgeous movie. Even just like her paintings, even the ugliest of moments, and there are some very ugly moments in here, there is a beauty to the artwork and a beauty to the world. The music is haunting. It's a gorgeous score. Very understated and yet very powerful. It's music that just kind of, I don't know, it fills you up and really creates mood and atmosphere. The dialogue is minimal. There's not a lot of talking in this. And when they do, again, both the voice actors and the writing seem like they're trying to make it sound almost like poetry. And I think that's why they selected the voice actors they did, you know, featuring Keira Knightley plays Charlotte, Jim Broadbent plays her grandfather, his name, Mark Strong plays one of her former lovers, and all of them, and the other actors have a very melodic tone to their voice. So even when they're saying basic dialogue, there is a sense of music and flow to it. So everything plays into this this overall concept, and it's a very gorgeous movie. When I'm thinking of it as a narrative, it's fascinating from this point of view that this is someone I have never heard of before. And I'm kind of ashamed I'd never heard of them before, because this is a fascinating story and of an incredibly talented person. And I'm kind of sad I'd never heard of them before this movie. But I guess the way to look at it is you could have gone your whole life and never heard of this person. So better to learn about it now than never. Narratively, it follows some basic beats. You know, there's not much I can talk of narratively or in terms of character development. The best thing I can say, there's... Okay, so here's where the film has a little bit of a problem. And this is always an issue when you're doing a biography, because people's lives and the events that make up their lives don't follow a narrative structure, right? Beck and I talked about this when we did the Elvis movie, that a lot of biographies feel like they have to try to encapsulate the entirety of the person's life instead of focusing on kind of a major point. And in this case, the life sadly was so tragically short that you can actually talk about most of their life. But it feels like there is, in terms of narrative structure or thematic structure in terms of the narrative, I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. It feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect. Like, okay, what I mean is, so when the film opens, and for the most of the film, of course, the overriding themes in terms of the story and the character developments are her trying to survive in an increasingly ugly world, and her trying to maintain beauty and a love for life in a world that is repeatedly growing uglier. You know, one of the taglines of the movie is, "It doesn't matter if life doesn't love us so long as we love life." And I think that's what her painting is about, that even the sad moments of her life, of which there were so very many, there's still a beauty in them. You can still love life even if life is treating you like shit. And that's a wonderful message, and it works very well. But then about halfway through, it feels like we're trying to veering into another direction, and that is art as a healing mechanism or a therapeutic outlet. As Charlotte learns that her mom, her aunt, and her grandmother all committed suicide, from what I could tell, based on what we would now consider to be extreme depression. And she starts dealing with this feeling that, it's because they didn't understand mental health back then. And of course, her grandfather's a complete and total prick who is just like, "Oh, it's a curse, and we're going to do it too. You're going to kill yourself someday too." And so she starts talking about that she's painting to silence the demon inside of her. And it just feels like we switch over to a different theme, which again, narratively, for a piece of dramatic fiction, is messy. But for a film that is depicting someone's life, who, we all go through ups and downs, it does make sense. So it's a forgivable thing. It's just something I noticed that felt a little jarring. The other thing that's jarring in this, talking about, the demon inside of her, this was a part of the movie that just kind of threw me for a bit. It happens towards the end. She straight up murdered her grandfather. Straight up murdered his ass. And I do not blame her, because he was a complete and total jackass the entire film. And I believe, again, I might be trying to fit square pegs into round holes, and trying to make this movie make, narrative sense when it's not meant to. Kind of like her paintings, actually, now that I think about it. But it just feels like that moment, I think, thematically, that comes back to her and the demon inside of her, and the demon that it was gonna get released one day, was not an attack on herself. It was an attack on the person she felt made her the most miserable and was the most harmful to her. So that demon that she was worried about came out, just not in the way that any of them expected. I don't know if any of that made sense. Like I said, this is one of those films I feel like to give a truly useful critique of. You probably need to watch a few more times, and you need to take notes. I'm doing off the cuff here, and I'm doing the best I can. I think I'm doing okay, but I don't think I'm doing great. I guess the term I could use to describe this movie best is a beautiful sadness. Because, I'm not trying to be glib, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but this is a story about a Jewish artist attempting to create her art during World War II, and we all know in 90% of cases that story is not going to end well, and it certainly doesn't. And even in its ugliest moments, I'm repeating myself again, I'm sorry, because I know some people have issue with that. Even in its ugliest moments and its darkest moments, there's still a beauty and a hope and a life to this film. And it's one that it hit me in a way I wasn't quite prepared for. I won't say I got weepy-eyed or anything, but I turned off the TV and had to sit for a little while and just ponder what I had seen and what I had learned. And just going, wow. And I never knew this. And it's a film I highly recommend. I guess when all is said and done, and the attempts to, ush out a meaningful critique is completed, what I can leave you with is, I'm glad I watched this movie. I don't know if it's one I will go back and watch multiple times, but at the same time, I'm kind of haunted by it. I kind of want to watch it again. So, I don't know. It is a film that I think people should see. I definitely think if you are an art student, you need to look at this. Truly believe that. So if you're an art student or an art teacher or anything to do with art, you need to look at this movie because it is a work of art. It really is. So yeah, this film is it'll haunt you in the most beautiful ways, and kind of it is one of those movies, and they are rare, that you kind of start looking at your own life and looking at the world around and going, okay, yeah, things can be shitty, but you know, you're alive and life is good, life is beautiful. So yeah, I'm getting way off track, trying to find my way back. I guess let's just cut to the chase. Not everything needs a great segue. So final grade for Charlotte. I'm going a solid A on this one. I don't know why I'm not giving it the A+. The only thing I can think of is that as good as a movie as it is, as beautiful as a movie as it is, it's lacking a little bit of the draw to make me want to go back and watch it more. Outside of artistic critical analysis. You know, that's the only reason I'd probably want to go back and watch this again. Yeah, so I think that's what keeps it from that A+. But it is beautiful, it is heartbreaking, it is poetic, and I think it's well worth a watch. So seek it out, seek out some time for yourself, and go take a look. That'd be my advice. Okay, so I'm glad I got to this one. So thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for coming along with me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.